Good afternoon. Hurricane Gloria, she's called one of the worst storms of the century, and right now she's churning off the East Coast.
Latest coordinates show Gloria is aimed at North Carolina, packing winds of 130 miles per hour. Now, the storm is moving in a north-northwesterly course at approximately 15 miles per hour. That's a little bit of a change over the last several hours. Carolina residents are preparing for the worst. Reporter Kevin Rowson joins us live with a News Star 7 satellite report from Wrightsville.
We're going to... Is Kevin ready? Yeah, here we go.
By 2 o'clock this afternoon. So all morning long, people here on Wrightsville Beach near Wilmington, North Carolina, have been packing up their belongings. They've been taping up windows and boarding their windows in case Gloria hits here. They are ready here. Most of the people have already left. There still are a few here, but they should be off by 2 o'clock. Although we have seen a few stragglers that stayed behind and said, we're going to wait it out and try and bear it. Gloria is packing some 130-mile-an-hour winds here, and they're saying that the tidal surge could be as much anywhere from 20 to 30 feet. If that happens and Gloria hits here, this island will be basically part of the ocean. I'm Kevin Rowson reporting live from Wrightsville Beach.
You know, Peter, that tidal surge is the most dangerous part of the hurricane for the people who live along the coast.
Of course.
Definitely. It could cover up to 6 miles inland.
And they figure it could be 15 feet. They're at Wrightsville Beach, right? You know, if the storm hits there, that of course would mean that all of those islands along the North Carolina coast would be underwater.
Right. And so far, we do understand that more than 100,000 people have evacuated those islands right now. We have another report.
We now go live to News Star Network reporter Fred Taylor. He's standing by at Nags Head, North Carolina.
Nags Head is beginning to look like a ghost town as people are leaving early. The Dare County Emergency Evacuation Center has asked folks to voluntarily leave the island. Policemen are stationed at both ends of the island, telling folks not to come on the island. They're to meet this afternoon at 2 to decide on making this evacuation order mandatory for the entire Outer Banks. We were told this morning from Bobby Owens, who is the chairman of the Dare County Commissioners, that that decision for a mandatory evacuation would come as soon as the hurricane turns north. It appears it has, so by this afternoon, the mandatory evacuation of the entire Outer Banks will be mandatory. This is Fred Taylor live from Nags Head, North Carolina.
Our thanks to Fred. Just to give you an idea of how they're telling where the storm is going to go, this is a 500 millibar chart. It measures the barometric pressure about 20,000 feet. They figure that this is something that is used as a steering current. Now, also, you were talking to me earlier, Jill, about the jet stream.
Right. Bill Ross is watching that, and he'll have more later. Right now, reporter Chris Placken is in Morehead City, North Carolina. He joins us with another live News Star Network report. Chris?
Force winds, the leading edge of the storm, are just 100 miles south of us here, and that those winds could pick up in the afternoon and by this evening be in excess of 100 miles per hour, possibly as much as 130 miles per hour. Here's what the situation was here at Atlantic Beach earlier today as people were packing up and getting out. The storm surges had already begun. High tides, well in excess of what they normally are, were already hitting the coast, and people were battening down the hatches as has been the case all throughout the North and South Carolina coastal area. Police ordered the evacuation this morning. People took heed to that call and started getting out. It was low tide pretty much now. High tide is coming later this evening at Atlantic Beach, and that's one of the major concerns. If the storm hits here early, then early this evening, it could be at high tide, and that could mean a much stronger storm surge, waves of up to 18 to 20 feet. This is Chris Placken reporting live from Atlantic Beach, North Carolina for the News Star Network.
While Carolina residents prepare for what's expected to be a long, tough ordeal, forecasters at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables are working around the clock to track the storm. And from there, News Center 7's Rick Sanchez joins us now live. Rick?
Okay, Jill, back here to Coral Gables now. Here's Gloria right here, right now, about 300 miles from Cape Hatteras. You can see it's moving in a northwesterly direction, heading for that area. Right now, it is at latitude 31 north, longitude 76 northwest. Its direction again is north-northwest. There's a warning all the way from South Carolina to Virginia. If it were to continue in that direction and go straight north, it would hit the Cape Hatteras area, which you see right here. We'd be talking about a storm surge from 8 to 12 feet. Yes, we'd be talking about a certain amount of flooding in that area. We spoke earlier to one of the meteorologists here. Paul Hebert spoke to us. Here's what he had to say.
If it hits there, they would have an 8 to 12 foot surge. They would have winds of 120, 130 miles per hour. It would literally probably make the sand dunes and all the cottages in that area disappear. If it misses that, they'll hardly have anything more than winds of 40 miles per hour, perhaps, if it misses it totally. So, if it misses everyone within 60 miles, they'll hardly have any damage, just some beach erosion from the swells and the surge. If it hits any point along the coastline in that particular area, it'll have an awful lot of damage.
There have been 2 hurricanes that have had this particular pattern in the past. One hurricane occurred in 1938. What it did was did exactly what Gloria was doing, but it ended up hitting the Cape Hatteras area. Number 2, back in 1944, a second hurricane. It missed the Cape Hatteras area, came around and hit New England. In both cases, there were extensive damage. All that depends on the steering currents, and there's no way to predict those steering currents until you can just watch it happen. Jill?
Speaking of those steering currents, Rick, is there any talk of Gloria backtracking like Betsy did, coming back to Miami?
Now, given the time of the year it already is, and given the steering conditions as they are being seen right now and as they are being monitored here at the National Hurricane Center, it is very remote. Not impossible, but very remote possibilities that that hurricane could in any way come back and do any harm to our Sunshine State. Peter?
All right, thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. That's News Center 7's Rick Sanchez live from the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables.